family thing.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Double
Uh,
the fun, double the pleasure.
Yeah.
I'm showing my age, right?
How so?
Double the fun, double the pleasure with double mint gum.
Oh, I
Yes,
see.
yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes. We're there.
that's not age. That's good memory.
Oh, there you go.
Did
Let me just get this other,
you put it?
I'm getting the other piece.
Well, I'm zooming to you from my new house.
Oh,
Oh, that's
congratulations.
wonderful. Congratulations.
I'm
Yeah,
now, I am no longer homeless,
that's
but
nice.
I'm poor once again.
Poor but well homed. Excellent.
There you
I think that's a good trade. You can't yeah, dollars won't keep out the rain, but a home will.
Indeed.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone. Who's that?
This is Joseph.
Joseph. Hi, good
Hi.
morning to you. Or good afternoon, your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wonderful to
Wonderful.
see you. And hi, I can see Regina and David and Damon. Hi, Carolina, Joanne, Catherine. That's who I can see so far.
You can unpin.
Renee, hi. Shashwat, Arthur, Renelle, with or without Lori, I can't tell this out. You go back? Okay, good. It's wonderful to see you all. We just have another minute or so. Hi, Sonia. Terry, Kamala, long time no see. Hi, John, Kema, Stacy, Samantha, Matthias, Ted, Melissa, Janet, and Matt. Just so you know, we got you on our sites. Um,
The paper's jammed, so
what?
paper's jammed. The second piece didn't come out.
We have it. So should we do our aspiration?
Yes.
Okay. So welcome, everyone. We're really glad and kind of hepped up to talk to you about our legacy program today. And as always, we will begin with developing our aspiration, fourfold aspiration for Bodhicitta. May all beings always have happiness and its causes. May all beings always be free of pain and its causes. May all beings always be pain-free and live happily. May no beings ever cling to those near nor spurn those far. For as long as space abides, as long as the world remains, just so long may I be there, resolving all beings' pain. And then we'll just sit for 1 minute. Yeah. In offering you this legacy program, we're calling it a legacy program because we feel it is the accumulated distillation of our teaching of the last 2 or 3 decades. And something has come together that we would like to coalesce and leave with you at Dawn Mountain and to continue at Dawn Mountain in the future, we hope. And that is an integration of the traditional practices that we do from nundro through to the treasures, through to reading Dzogchen texts, practicing Dzogchen, what practitioners in our lineage have always done, perhaps not always, but for a long time. Our teachers have carried this lineage for a long time, whether we date it back to Guru Rinpoche or Longchen Rabcham or Jigme Lingpa. It has a wealth of richness for us as we discover year by year. And also, clearly, we are in another time and another place than where these teachings came forward and where they have been practiced and are still practiced in our own day. And between us, we have a lot of experience with these practices. And Lama Namgyal in particular, as you know, has spent I don't know, 30 years or so, really taking trainings and absorbing essential wisdom, we can say, from Western understandings of the mind. Understanding of the mind, of our body, of our being is crucial, whether we are a practitioner or in life with life practices. And what we now feel that we can offer and really want to share in the best way we can is a coming together of these. That is to say, seeing directly how some of the skills that we learn, for example, through focusing, which is really just very simply being with the felt sense of your own experience. It is very, very compatible with Buddhist practice. How these, what we're now calling yogas of lived experience, just how to be in the world, how to be in our lives, how an ability to sense into what is going on with us is really a crucial element of practice that is perhaps a little more challenging or challenging in different ways for us in the 21st century, raised outside of Buddhist traditions, than perhaps it was for people who grew up in those traditions and in a culture which implicitly valued a certain kind of internality that maybe our public culture does not. So this is what we want to bring to you over a period of 3 years, with more to come, actually, we hope, after that. And that's what we want to introduce briefly today, maybe do an exercise to show you kind of how this distillation, these two elements catalyze each other, not seeing them as two distinct heaps of wisdom, but actually bringing together the sand piles of wisdom, so to speak. And also we want to hear any of your thoughts, questions, comments. So that's our aspiration for this morning.
Good morning, everyone. I'm extremely touched by seeing everyone who is here this morning. Many old faces and actually a few new faces, which is delightful. It's a somewhat touching and poignant moment. We have been planning and engaging with Lama Rigdon Sherab Gyatso, who is on, Nathaniel Rich, who is our appointed successor. We've been working with Moses Mohan, who is an organizational development specialist, and really trying to sharpen who we are what we have been doing and what we're hoping to carry forward into the future. And it's been a very, very exciting set of meetings and conversations. And speaking for myself, and I think it's been true for all of us engaged in the process, it's forced me to become a little bit more self-conscious and self-reflective about what it is we have been doing, and in a way, why the heck have we been doing it? And in some part to really clarify our voice as Dawn Mountain and who we are and what we wish to be moving into the future. You know, I was contemplating this during my meditation last night as my distraction. This is my inclination. And, you know, what really could sum this up most effectively? You know, it's sort of like, what is our spiritual last will and testament that we want to offer everyone? And what came to me was tender care and joyous curiosity. And I think if we have that as our flag, tender care and joyous curiosity, it really, for me, really carries what I would hope that anyone training with us will come away with. You know, I think many of us, I don't know if all of us, but many of us come into spiritual practice because we're maybe either running away from something or running towards something. Many of us understand that spiritual practice can give us perhaps greater calm, more ease. Certainly, I think the element of meaning is very, very significant for almost every one of us who is exploring spirituality. We understand that our everyday cell phone saturated existence and culture, while exciting and addictive, doesn't ultimately bring a sense of deep meaning, deep satisfaction, deep fulfillment. And it turns out that when we can touch into something deeper, more real, more actual, something gets stirred in us that feels like, ah, this is what life is all about. This is the meaning that I've been seeking. This is the fulfillment I've been hoping for. And it may be very, very difficult to put into words. It's a moment of fresh experience, often. And freshness is certainly one of the key words that I fasten on thinking in terms of what are we hoping for our students to experience? That is freshness in life. Freshness so fresh that all of our ordinary conceptions, all of our ordinary preconceptions, all of our anticipations, all of our identities even may slip away and become thin or maybe even non-existent. And we're in the immediacy of life with all its vibrancy, with all of its energy, with all its clarity, all of its peace. So there are many, many qualities that we are hoping to open into. I just recently had somebody offer me a distinction between the quote new schools and the old schools of Tibetan practice. And I was a little bit aware of some of it, but not actually as aware as I probably should have been, because I think it speaks a lot to what I'm talking about. Because in the new schools, apparently, there is this sense that one uses practices of the what's called in the new schools Anuttara Yoga Tantra to move the winds into the central channel, and that one uses practice to arrive at what's called the innate mind, the Nyugme Sem, through very, very specific intentional practices of getting the vital energy into the central channel. Dzogchen has such practices, and at the same time, the approach is that we are going to settle into our true nature. And with our true nature, the winds naturally move into the central channel. It's a kind of subtle difference, but even when I was hearing my colleague describe what the new schools are doing, I just felt this enormous sense of responsibility, stress, and strain, and that, my God, there'd be all this something that I would have to accomplish. And Dzogchen has a very different flavor. Now, of course, many of you, maybe all of you, are aware that we have a lot of doingness in Dzogchen. We have foundational practices. They're very, very important. And they involve a lot of stress, strain, and effort. Include 100,000 prostrations, 100,000 refuge in bodhicitta, 100,000 mandala offerings, 100,000 recitations. What a lot of activity. And it's all, that activity is to allow us to learn how to relax into reality. One of the words I'm very, very enthused about nowadays in Tibetan is the word Nel, which is in transcription, we translate it as RNAL. And due to all the vagaries of letters and Tibetan pronunciation, that ends up being pronounced Nel, even though it's spelled RNAL. And it means actuality or truth. And they translate in Tibetan yoga as Neldu Jorwa. And Jor itself could be the translation for yoga, frankly, because Jor just means union, unite. But Nel speaks to uniting with that which is actual or true. And in many ways, everything we're doing is a movement towards that which is actual and true. Now, of course, there is this sense in Buddhism that there is an ultimate actual, and we wish to arrive at that ultimate actual. Psychologically, what I see in my work and those of us who work in the field is that we in at least the modern situation, and that's what I'm most familiar with, we learn how to accommodate to ourselves, to others, and we work with what we call in my work defenses, which are basically ways and strategies of coping with difficulties that allow us to get by. And especially these are strategies that we developed when we were particularly young, when anything overwhelming psychologically, physiologically would have been too much to handle, too much to deal with. We learn how to dissimulate from our own experience. One of the most scary experiences I ever had in my whole life was when I was about 14. My father asked me to pick up a watch at a watchmaker, which in those days in Brooklyn, you could have a watchmaker who lived at home and somehow worked. And somehow he had the home address of this watchmaker. It's about 3 blocks by bike to go over to the watchmaker's house. And I went over to the watchmaker's house. There were a whole bunch of people over there. And, just this 14-year-old kid on their bike. And I go in and I say, "Hi, I'm here to pick up my father's watch." And this woman, who now in retrospect, looking back, was probably in her maybe 30s or 40s, she pulls me to the porch. Oh, and first I speak to an older woman, and she says, "Oh, my husband's not home just yet. He'll be coming home shortly." I said, "Okay, I can wait." And then this younger woman grabs a hold of me and takes me to the porch and says, "That's my mother, and my father's not coming home. He's died." And somehow I think she found her watch. But the mother had said her husband was coming home. She was living in a very strong defense of denial. For her, her husband hadn't died. She couldn't cope with it. And so husband was still coming home. If any of you know any alcoholics, many people say that alcoholism is a disease of denial. When people are in the thick of their disease, they have no problem with alcohol. And it's very disconcerting for anybody to try to talk to an alcoholic in the thick of their disease, because there's no problem. But we all avoid our experience. We use fantasies. We use our phones. We get into rumination. We get into distancing. We get into numbing. Or sometimes one way of avoiding experience is by enhancing certain forms of experience and getting really overly reactive. But it's still as a strategy to avoid actuality. So in some ways, we could say that many of the psychological disciplines that we're involved with are also aimed at learning the actual, getting us in touch with our actuality. And there's kind of a movement afoot in the world of therapy to be more and more sensitive to the body and the experiences in the body, Because it turns out when we're aware of our physical experience, it can lead to a very, very rapid access to what's actually afoot for us in our emotional and even cognitive experience. So over the years, it's actually at this point, I graduated from social work school in 84. And I guess we're approaching close to 50 years, over 50 years of involvement in this profession. And what we will be offering along with our traditional teachings are modes of exploration that were developed in therapeutic context, but actually have been seen to have a wide array of cross applicability in the fields of consulting, advising, and self-exploration. What we're going to do in this legacy program is not therapy nor a substitute for therapy. And, I'll just be honest, anybody who's talked to me for more than 20 seconds will recognize that I feel that probably just about anybody who's ever been involved with practice should also be involved with some psychotherapy. It's really, really helpful to the therapeutic endeavor and to the spiritual endeavor. But we're not going to be doing therapy, but we're going to be using and learning 3 particular approaches. And as things progress, approaches to human development keep developing. 20 years down the road, Dawn Mountain, some other things may be very much being explored and offered. May it be so. But right now, the things that we will be offering are entitled Focusing, Our Discovery Practice, and Internal Family Systems. And I'm just going to say a little bit about those 3. There will be a recording of this available as well. And I would hope you could plug in, but I understand sometimes these things are complicated. There will be a recording. So what are these particular disciplines and how do they work? Just very, very simply and briefly. They all do thrive on curiosity. And in a recent teaching, Lama Tenzin Sampel said something in Tibetan that was so profound. He said in Tibetan, Selwa Rikpe Tsenyi Tsangiyore. Selwa Rikpe Tsenyi Tsangiyore. And there could be a lot of different translations for this, but it basically, to me, is saying that lucidity comprises the essential characteristics of Rikpa, presence awareness. Lucidity comprises the characteristics of presence awareness, Rikpa. So why do I bring this up? Because this word lucidity, selwa in Tibetan, has an enormous and profound semantic range that is not quite easily encompassed in any one or even a handful of English words. Selwa refers to a quality of knowing, which is lucidity. But it also refers to that which is known lucidly. It also refers to a non-dual experience of knowing without a division into subject and object. That could be selwa. Just the immediacy of being in experience with lucidity could be an experience of lucidity, but not a sense of a subject object. Not a sense of subject object. So, what does this have to do with these approaches? Each one of these three approaches are grounded in curiosity with a kind of special knowing. In Buddhist, they'll talk about Phakton, special knowing, vipassana. Vipassana is really insight, special looking. Focusing involves just learning how to retire the ordinary mind or let it be on the side and really listening to our body with respect to issues that are either up or concerning us. Discovery is a process that comes out of the tradition of microphenomenology and philosophy and cognitive science, but it's a very, very hyper-acute awareness of the processes of mind and body. And internal family systems is a way of looking at our experience, and part of that system involves sort of asking our immediate reactions to sort of move to the side and just to see if we can get to a much more basic awareness, a lucid awareness of what our actual experience is now. For example, it might be just even a pain or some experience in our body that's a little bit uncomfortable. When we start looking at that experience with openness and curiosity, we may recognize that right in that experience, the first thing that we're feeling with respect to that experience is rejection. So we've got a little pain or discomfort in our chest. And before we can even really be with that pain or discomfort, there's this whole layer of rejection that is clouding the immediacy of our experience. And so we just ask that rejection, is it willing to step aside for a moment so that we can just be with our experience? Now, I'm doing this quickly because for many of us, it might take a bit to actually even be able to do that much. Just allowing the immediacy of rejection to move aside and to be more clearly with, let's say, a pressure in our chest. And what does that feel like? It turns out that's a very, very subtle process. And even engaging in that subtle process, we can start feeling like, oh, there's something spiritual going on here. This doesn't just feel like my ordinary mind. There's a kind of awareness that becomes available into our experience that we're not necessarily ordinarily in touch with. So we use something like internal family systems to become familiar with a mode of being with our experience that's clearer, more tender, more caring. I'll be very, very frank. I myself, just within the last year or two, have just becoming much more aware of how rejective I am of so much of my experience, just as an immediate response. Something comes up and I want to move away from it, just almost instinctively. It's huge. How can we find the actuality of our experience if we're trying to reject it? Tender care is really an avenue. Curiosity is really an avenue. It's a theme that I'll have a lot more to say about in the future, but there's a way in which classical mindfulness, especially as taught in the sutra tradition, can, at least in modern Western bodies, I don't know about in the traditional cultures, I can't speak for them, can start picking up accretions of distancing from experience. And because along with mindfulness, we always talk about mindfulness and awareness, samprajanya, sheshin in Tibetan. And that's the awareness of, well, I know that this is the case. Do I want to encourage this or do I want to discourage this? It's an awareness, mindfulness and awareness. I'm having the following experience. Is it something I wish to encourage or discourage? That kind of awareness can start getting hardened into self-judgment. And before we know it, we think we're practicing Buddhist mindfulness and we're just actually tooling around in a whole bunch of hypervigilance and a whole bunch of negative judgment that may be very, very subtle, but painful. We're teaching these things in general to our community now. We have Dzogchen cycles, which is a deep immersion into Adzon Pelo Rinpoche's teachings. And at the same time, we're now offering in the fall and the spring one free day of kind of the yoga, we're calling them the yogas of lived experience. So this year in the fall, we'll be doing dyadic focusing. Last fall, I taught just focusing by oneself, and anybody can take the dyadic focusing. It'll be open to everyone. And then in the spring, we'll be doing a teaching on our discovery process. I'm talking with one person now about doing an intensive on internal family systems in the following fall. We did something last spring on IFS, which is really, really useful. If you haven't participated in it, I would encourage you to watch it. It was about the self-criticism. So these are now part of the Dzogchen Cycles program. We offer them free for those who are fully involved in the Dzogchen Cycles program. What we'll be doing in addition in the Legacy program is we'll have 4 additional days a year, one day in the fall, one day in the spring, and probably 2 days in the summer, where we will meet together and we'll be working on the things that we'll be doing in our traditional practices and applying these approaches to our practice, whether we do that as self-reflections or we'll do that as dyads, triads, or small groups. There'll be a lot more time for integrating the wisdom of these modern Western modalities into ourselves and doing so with our colleagues. those of you who've been with us for a long time, and those of you who are new, I'll repeat it. One of the things that there's a book, I think it's called The Tantras of Dzogchen, and it's got a lot of short Tantra, Dzogchen Tantra texts, and in it is the Tantra of the geese. And it speaks to how geese transmit the true nature to one another by the flapping of their wings. It's such a lovely image. And both being a modern Westerner and having immersed ourselves in traditional Tibet culture very, very deeply, Tibetan culture and the way that the tradition has been taught, we use a big word in English, it's hierarchical. There's an emphasis on hierarchy. We value our teachers, the lamas, our gurus, because they transmit the tradition to us. We value the Sangha. It's absolutely there. But as moderns, we tend to undervalue the Sangha. We have a colleague named Victor Horry. He wrote an article in, I'm not sure where now, maybe Tricycle, but we met him, and he may be a Japanese Zen priest. I don't know if he's public about that or not, but we were walking and he had almost an edge on him when he said this to me, but he said, you know, in the West, people get the first two jewels, but they don't get the Sangha, the third jewel. And part of what we will be doing in those 4 extra days that we will be meeting is working one with another and being able to recognize that as we work one with another and we do something like focusing with one another, discovery with one another, maybe an IFS dialogue with one another, something nonverbal starts to permeate the space. And depending on who we are and where we are with our experience, that something nonverbal may be very much in tune with either calm abiding or presence awareness. Not something we can put our fingers on exactly, but it's a kind of sense that we have. There's something in the air. There's something pervading the process, a kind of presence awareness that just seeps in as we're engaged in this process together. We're flapping our wings and we're mutually experiencing the arrival of presence awareness. You can't figure out where this starts. And the tradition will say, guess what? There is no beginning. Lama Rigdzin Dolma likes to say, unborn. Part of what we're doing is in that process of engaging with one another in a process of dialogue or a trialogue or in a small group. Unbeknownst to us, all of a sudden, if we just start tapping into our attention and our awareness, we notice something going on. There is a heightened clarity, selwa. Presence awareness may be present. Maybe there's just a sense of calm abiding. But we, in a lineage of blessings, which we have at Dawn Mountain, can, in a process of engaging these Western disciplines, open ourselves to a different register of being. It's a blessing. So I've said a lot. I've actually conveyed a great deal of what we're trying to accomplish. really, it is those 4 extra days. And then there'll be reading groups every 4 months that we will ask to kind of self-organize, where we'll offer some readings and there'll be discussion. The program's evolving. If people feel there should be some more engagement, we certainly can explore that, and it might be necessary or useful. We looked at this very, very, very carefully, and frankly, I wanted to create something that would really offer everybody something much more, but not so much more that we burdened everybody out of possibility. We are all extraordinarily busy. Some of us are very, very old. Some of us may not have energy. Some of us may not have opportunity. Don't let money stand in the way. We can always work with you in terms of finances. But I think the biggest pressures that most people feel are the pressures of time and commitment. So we did not want the commitment to be extraordinary, but we also wanted it to be meaningful and useful. And so, quite frankly, you could get a lot just doing our Dzogchen Cycles program now, and you would get a lot of the core skills for what I'm talking about. But the legacy program will allow us all as a cohort to work together to experience what those skills are in practice and allow us to become more facile so that when we're with ourselves or with a colleague, we can really fruitfully engage in self-exploration. So maybe we will start with some questions first. We have an exercise if we have time to offer, but I would love to hear questions or observations or objections or anything. And you can most fruitfully probably do this by, if you look at the reaction button at the bottom and you click on the little caret next to it, you actually click on the heart. And in there, there's a raise hand bar. So if you want to raise your hand, please do so, or unmute yourself and speak. Yes, Karen.
This was so lovely, and I'm so excited about this. And I'll tell you my what was the word you used earlier? The rejection piece was the nundro, because yes, I'm much to Anne's. Just I don't know. She doesn't get disappointed, but for years she's been asking me to finish my nundro, but I'm slow. But when I looked at it this morning, it's not just the refuge, the bodhicitta, and the vajrasattva and prostrations. There's mandala and something else. And I went, oh my God, do I have to commit to finishing all of that in that 3 years? That's what I thought I saw. And I went, they're going to kick me out.
All right.
I'm so glad that you asked. No, you do not have to finish it in 3 years. And
Okay.
whatever you have done, you can build on. And what I hope you might find is that you can do it at whatever pace works for you. And I know you're busy doing wonderful things in your own community. And it supports everything that we're doing, but there's no question of you being kicked out. And we can talk, more privately to see what kind of space in your life there is for it, or how you're reacting to it, and those kinds of things. But just to assure you and to assure everyone, we do encourage it. There will eventually be things that only those of you who are either have completed nundro or in some cases have a real plan to complete it, that will come up, but these 3 years are available for you.
The first 3 years have no commitment of nundro whatsoever. We're not asking people to engage in the foundational practice, complete them, or anything. But come 3 years into it, we will want people to either have completed or to be very, very clear about a plan to complete, the foundational practices. So that's post 3 years. So may we all live another 3 years, and there
And
would be
beyond.
a lot to be gained. And if there's full bore engagement with the process, I think we'll be looking at people on an individual basis at that point. Don't rule yourself out, don't rule yourself in. It will be a conversation that needs to make sense to both sides. But, for example, just to be frank, we're teaching the Yeshe Lama now in Taramandala. That has a requirement of foundational practice completion. And by the third year, which will be not this summer, but next summer, people will have had to complete nundro, or they won't be able to attend that teaching. It's just that's how it's done. And it's very, very important for certain teachings for those requirements to be met. But let's talk in 3 years. May we all be alive and well, and see where people are at with their accumulations and what it is we'll be teaching.
And we know some people have recently taken an interest in nundro. We're very happy about that. The Brilliant Basics is the name of the course. It's a video course. It's self-paced. And already there are some things that Lama Tenzin, for example, is teaching that are only for people who have an actual plan to complete and who are actively doing it and involved and so on. So there will be a few things like that. Rinpoche amazingly did not put that requirement on his treasures, which are a kind of secret door. They do have teachings that mostly traditionally we certainly didn't get until we had completed nundro. And when he first said, "Oh, you should teach the Yeshe Tsogyal practice," and I said, "To whom should I teach it?" And I was about to say, "You mean people who have finished nundro?" And I didn't even get there. He just said, "Teach it to good people." So he has opened a well of generosity here. And at the same time, we do encourage you to engage in nundro, and we're happy to talk with you about it. We have a self-paced course. So we're a both end Sangha on that. Yes. Good. We got that out of the way, Karen. Good for you. Okay.
Shashwat,
Shashwat,
TK Acha Boliye.
Thank you, Lama Namgyal. I have been in therapy off and on over the last 3 years or so, and have been attending therapy sessions since late last year. And I was wondering if in the course of the next 3 years we can explore how I could seek a helpful synthesis between the two, my Buddhist practice and my therapy sessions.
The what sessions?
Therapy session.
Oh, I see. Okay, I missed something. All right. Yes.
Synthesis.
It felt like when I started therapy late last year, I was sort of really struggling with some stuff, and it felt like therapy allowed me to be a lot more permissive of where I happened to be in my personal / spiritual journey. And I was able to sort of, make some progress with the difficulty that I was facing. Uh, uh, and and at the same time, I felt that some of the permissiveness of my therapy sessions kind of stood a little bit in conflict with the aspirations and the ideals of the Buddhist practice. Some of the recitation that I'm doing every day is aspirational, but also it's sort of then the rest of the day feels like, okay, I'm allowed to do this because I've spoken to my therapist about it, but it doesn't quite sort of sync so well with the Buddhist practice. And my therapist has a certain idea about what my Buddhist practice might be about, but you would have a vantage point that has a clear view of, both these landscapes. And I have I do not want to. I want to. I want to stick with my therapy over the next couple of years. I feel like, unlike on previous occasions where I felt like, okay, I'm going to sort of do it for a while, solve a difficulty, and get out. Now I feel like, no, I need that just as a stable support. And I was wondering how, if there's some advice that we can sort of integrate in our upcoming journey, on how we can bring these two together,
So
in my mind.
it's a beautiful question. It's a very meaningful question. And I think at this point, I have 50 years worth of experience to relate to what you're saying. And I'll say this, Shashwat, I think that some of what we will do will address this. And this would be, I think, typical of our work in the legacy program as well. From time to time, there'll be occasions where it would be optimal for one of us to talk with one of our students. The IFS workshop is available to watch. You would need to contact Terry. So Shashwat, what I think might be optimal is for you and I to have at least one conversation. It might be more than that. But I think the simple answer is both and, namely learning how to both hold aspirations and tasks, and also to start appreciating what is as what is in a fully open and accepting manner. But we can talk about what that looks like, perhaps more privately, and maybe I'll shoot you an email, or you can write me at, do you have my email? Write me at harvey-aronson@comcast.net, and just so that I have your email, and I'll get back in touch with you. Okay?
Yes, thank you, Lama.
I appreciate it. Okay, Mel.
Hi, I was very excited going through the material about what the program sounds like. And I just had a logistical question. My question is that it says in there that there is a requirement for a number of synchronous attendance. And I was wondering if synchronous means live in person on camera, or if synchronous means flying to Houston, because I can only afford to do that once a year.
No, it just
The
means on the
form.
same time, same place.
Okay,
That's
yeah.
what and thanks for asking, Mel. We really emphasize as much synchronicity as possible because we will be a cohort. We will get to know each other. We will be moving through these 3 years together, and it's wonderful to have face to face. The wings can flap, in synchronicity. Yeah, thanks for asking.
Thank you for asking that. Laurel.
Hi. But Wyeth had a vaccine and he's a little inconsolable, so I've got him with me.
Oh, wow.
So hopefully I'll be able to I'll do my question quickly. But I thank you first of all for offering this. I'm gonna have to I'll take myself off video so I don't scandalize anyone by nursing him. He's just really he's having a hard day, the poor little guy. But can't figure out where the
Go
sorry.
ahead and do what you need
Do
to
it,
do.
Nita. We're happy to see you from
Okay.
You have a little video button.
Yeah, okay, sorry, I just was on the wrong page. But so my question has to do with Semtree and how that might fit into this program. I know that over the many years I've been involved with Dawn Mountain, I've just always been so aware of your time as lamas and your personal time, possibly even to the detriment of some closeness, because I never want to intrude or impose upon your precious time as teachers, and know that you're always called upon. But I just wanted to see to what extent Semtree might be involved in this offering.
Semtree is definitely involved for you. For one who is, so for those of you, it's not an official part of this program. That's always personal. And it may be partly my fault also, especially in the last year or so. I have not been in touch with people as much as I want to be, and I think can be now that I'm going half-time at Rice. So for those of you who don't, so Semtree is literally mind guidance. We have this particular lineage from Adzom Rinpoche. It is unique to the Adzom tradition. It belongs to a larger corpus that you may hear if you read about Dzogchen of so-called pointing out instructions, which for many reasons is a bad translation, but that's what it's called. And this is a sequence, and these are only one-on-one. That's how Rinpoche really teaches Dzogchen, one-on-one, traditionally. And it does require nundro. And if you are curious about it, or if you have kind of started it and maybe it's fallen off a bit, let us know. So it will be part of your life, Laurel, now that I know you want to get to it. It's not an official part of the program because it's one-on-one, it's private. Yeah. Thank you for bringing it up. We encourage everyone to consider it. And again, that's a conversation with us privately.
Thank you, Laurel.
Thank you. Oh, it looks like you're calmer, little one. Yes. Oh.
Joanne.
Hi, I'm so excited about this program, and Lama Rixon, I'm happy that you're going half-time to give yourself more time. My question has to do with Yeshe Lama. I know you've just started this, you're a year in and maybe have 4 years or so to go. Once we've completed either the first 3 years or maybe even the second 3 years, is it anticipated that Yeshe Lama would be offered again, or,
we haven't really gotten there yet, but in principle, it's part of the program and probably it will be. I think overall, so this is coming up the second year. I think there are 4 years altogether or 5.
Might be 5.
5, but a little good news for you. Not being able to come this year might not mean that you have to leave. We've just had a conversation about that. So for those of you for whom that's an issue, we will be back to you, but I think you'll be happy to hear that.
Yes, thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hi, Marty.
Marty.
Long time no see.
Hi. It's so wonderful to see both of you. And I too, Lama Ann, am glad that you're going half-time. I am curious. Well, I do not know yet if I'm formally, officially accepted into this program, but if I am, the sooner I have actual dates for the next year, the better that would be.
We understand.
And so if you could speak to
Calendar
that,
already. We've got
that would be great.
Do have the calendar.
So we'll send that out. No problem.
And
Did you
I understand from Emily that maybe we should watch the last Seeing to Being.
That's correct. Please do.
Okay.
Well,
You will get it from her.
the first Seeing to Being is most important. Seeing to Being number 1 is most important.
If you
Okay.
can't do Seeing to Being number 2, that's on the Elements. Part 1, which was, I think, last fall, is the basic ground of Seeing to Being. So thank you.
Okay.
I will be
for
doing a lot
asking.
with Seeing to Be.
Be doing a lot with that. Then part 3 will come this fall.
Yes, so I'm asking everybody to watch that upon acceptance, to take that course.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you send in your statement already?
She did.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Kamala,
Hi.
Hi. I just wanted to ask because I tried clicking on that statement of interest link and it just kept bringing me back to the legacy homepage.
Oh,
I don't know if that's a glitch on my end or if there's a okay, looks like it's
I don't know.
Candace,
Other
Candace, are
people
you
have
on?
been-
Can you hear this?
Yes, I can hear.
Are you hearing they're having trouble opening the statement of interest on the legacy page?
Okay, let me go in and check it to see.
We have received
Yeah.
statements of interest as recently as
important.
yesterday, so
Hmm.
it might be your, you know what, if you can't, just send us an email and we'll
Okay.
We'll get it to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or we can, and we'll send you, there are some questions on the sheet and we'll send it to you if you can't get in and you can submit it that way. We can't wait
Okay.
to, yeah, yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you for reporting that.
yeah.
And hopefully we'll get on top of that.
Yeah, thank
Okay.
you, Candace.
Thank you.
Catherine,
Kathleen,
Kathleen, all right.
you're muted, Kathleen.
And we
So
don't read.
sorry about that. So thank you for this, and it's very exciting, and particularly the integration, this integration of the Buddhist practice in the Western psychology has been challenging and elusive for me for a long time. So these body-based practices are in a very exciting dimension that I haven't really had a context for exploring before. So this is very, very exciting to me. And also the mention of symmetry, which I was not aware of as a particular dimension of Don Mountain's work. Yeah, it's extremely interesting to me. So just putting that out there. But the question I have, and this may be answered in the little exercise we're doing today. Still a little vague how these body-based practices would interweave with the Buddhist practices that we're doing. How is there kind of an example, if it's not going to be demonstrated in the exercise today, sort of how they actually would work, like on the cushion?
Well, for example, you're familiar with the 3 pillars. We find ourselves at ease, we sensing into the cushion. It's a body practice. We sit a certain way, the upper trunk rising up, for example. Or we notice, and I think you may have done this already in the first Pith practice, which we get a chance we may do today together, we're invited to look into how do we support thought? And that actually involves looking at the body, because how do you know that a thought is coming before it comes? Often there's some signal in the body, a little bit of tension. Just for example, we sit a certain way, we have light coming through us, we want to sense that. That's not an abstract idea. As we did in the recent retreat, how does it feel in your crown, in your throat, in your heart, in your navel, for example? And the way we see this, I have thought a lot about this for many years, and it's very easy to follow the instructions of Tibetan practices and kind of be in your head. I can tell you that from my personal experience for a very long time. The ideas are so interesting. Who needs the body? And actually slowly realizing that for the Tibetan tradition itself, in a way, there's not a lot explicitly said about the body in the early stages of the teaching, because everybody knows, in the culture, you grow up, of course, the body you live in an environment, you're always walking up or walking down. The body is just implicitly, they didn't learn the Cartesian divide, right? There's just naturally more access to the body, I believe, in that culture. So what we feel that we're doing when we integrate these body practices, we're just bringing alive something that's actually already assumed in the tradition. And that's a brief description. And I think I've written an article or 2 about that, if you remind me and you're interested.
Yes.
It's probably on my academia.edu
Mhm.
page.
it will become a lot
It'll
clearer
become, you know,
in practice, but I appreciate your wondering.
yeah.
And it's very rich. It's just very rich. And if we have a moment, we'll do something. Let's just see if we have some time.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, a general principle through these yogas of Western
everyday life.
yogas of lived experience and the Buddhist, the through line is being aware in a very granular way, in a very nuanced way, open to wonder, open to curiosity. We tend to think, and this is an issue that we find very much in Buddhist practice and also in the lived experience explorations, we tend to put a kind of label on things. How do you feel? Fine. What does that mean? Right? Where do you feel fine? How do you know that you feel fine? And these kinds of explorations bring us into a much more authentic relationship with our experience, much more granular, more detailed, more precise. And so being with the body is part of that.
So even that question, I mean, one of the things I'm noticing is I read a lot of books, and
no, you do.
part of
We
what
don't advise it.
actually is helpful is, how do you know you're feeling fine? If you wanted to know what we're doing, just, if I said, how are you feeling? You said, I'm okay. What is going on in your body that allows you to know that you're feeling okay? And actually taking 5 minutes to just sense, how do I know I'm feeling okay? How do I know that I'm feeling angry? Even that would be kind of an entree to just how we're proceeding.
Claire, there's some good readings on this. Claire Petit-Marjan has written some marvelous stuff.
And it's available free on her website.
Her academia, what is it called?
No, on her website, she's got it all.
On her website, Claire Petit-Marjan. I have some of them posted on mine. Veiling and Unveiling is a piece specifically on meditation. And one thing to say very quickly is the people who are the founders of what we're talking about, Eugene Gendlin, Claire Petit-Marjan, somebody is a very important figure in internal family systems. They have all had their own relationship with Buddhism. So this is a deep conversation already in focusing, for example. Gendlin came to some of the Namkyn Norbert retreats that we came to, for example. Claire, although she's not public about this at all, has a deep practice for decades in the Tibetan tradition. So even the founders of these, or the major voices that we are learning from these traditions, they already have a conversation with Buddhism, just so you know.
Yeah.
Thank you. Much more to say, and I'm so glad you're excited.
Thank you.
Too. And you will bring a lot to this conversation as well, I know.
Indeed.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Joseph.
Joseph.
Yes, thank you also so much, both of you, for what you're offering. I hope I want to be very brief, but I want to say something about the nundro. I finished the nundro quite some time ago, and I'm not saying this because I'm good or whatever. I've considered myself really still a beginner. And about half a year ago, Anne has told me, and I've actually neglected the nundro for quite some time. I've not repeated it, for quite some time. And recently, and I asked Anne, and she said, well, you should do the nundro again. So I have done the nundro in my daily practice every day for about half a year. And what I simply want to share, that it has really helped really helped my practice, especially in terms of bringing it from the cushion to the day, into the so-called normal life. And it's just amazing how deep and how rich the nundro is. And this is just to say to, I think it was Karen or someone, don't worry, but it's really worth it. The nundro is so rich, and I'm only seeing maybe 1% of all of it anyway, but it is really, it's very, very, it has given me an enormous amount, and I did not know this for a long time. So I'm doing it again, and it helps me, and thank you.
Thank you so
Joseph.
much for saying that, Joseph. It's true. And coming from you is, I think, more powerful than anything from somebody who's been practicing it. Nundro for us is a daily practice, a lifelong daily practice. And it does continue to reveal itself. For me, I think I started in 74, 75, yes, and completed it pretty quickly because I wasn't doing anything else really. And oh my goodness, I didn't know anything then, really. I knew much less than any of you know right now. And it still says, ah, here, look, you haven't noticed this yet. It's just, yeah. So we do encourage it without wanting you to feel terrified that you'll never get any teachings if you don't finish it or something like that. It really, thank you, Joseph, everything you said.
Thank you. Renee.
Renee.
Hi, thank you, everybody. I don't have a question, but I just want to point out all this discussion about things to do and how much to do it is giving me a lot of anxiety.
Yeah.
That's
You hear that? Yeah, you already have a lot of things to do.
And we're
Me too.
very aware of that.
Yeah.
And yeah, you know, I don't know what to say aside from you could survive and be a wonderful person and not take the legacy program. And it's really, if you are going to be doing everything we do anyway, it's really an additional 4 days and some book readings
And mostly you do everything.
every
you-
4 months.
anyway.
So, you know, you need to work with yourself and you need to care for yourself. And if it's too much, it's too much. But you're doing great already. And, you know, I think we really have to be tender with ourselves in terms of taking care and balancing our diverse involvements.
So hopefully you'll see, maybe life will settle down a little bit in your new post. It's still maybe. And there are things that are open to everyone that are also part of the legacy program.
Well,
but hopefully in the best of all possible worlds, it would somehow give you more refreshment. You know, right now we're just seeing the dates and the assignments. The actual experience, we hope, will be somewhat light. You can, you know, please join and explore and you'll see. And we will love you either way.
if you can do it, you can do it. And
We
if
hope
you can't,
do it, but
it's
you know,
fine.
if it's not the time for you, or if you do it in a more extended way, things will be recorded.
You know, there's the ideal and there'll be the actual. And if people need to bend here and there, we're going to work with people to make it possible.
You should have seen what it was when we started.
Yeah, we dialed things back quite a bit, actually.
Yeah.
Wanted it to
anyway,
be-
No
thank you.
comment.
Shut up. No comment. We hear you, Renee. It's on our minds too. We really feel that the material is, you know, we want it to be rich, so we've left in it what's in it, and we'll all have to see. You'll have to see.
Yeah.
But
I appreciate
I
your sharing.
appreciate that that's there. I
Yeah.
get it.
Want to
We
acknowledge
freak out
that.
too sometimes.
So this is a good example of both acknowledging and accepting and having an aspiration.
Yeah.
And there's a middle ground. You know, she's going to aspire to engage. That does create a little bit of stress. And she's going to check in with herself, and we'll check in with ourselves and we'll talk. May not be possible, but we need to acknowledge our experience. That's the key thing, that when I talk about tender care and joyous curiosity, this we share with the therapeutic perspective. And ultimately, it's the perspective for knowing who we are is just being with our experience. And we do a lot to get there. So there is this, it's both and. And it's actually in the tradition, we can talk about the karmic and the Gnostic narratives are balancing them out. The karmic narrative has to do with a lot of to-do, a lot of judgment. We don't give that up, but we have to learn how to live with ourselves and be more carefully. But we'll talk about it continuing.
Thank you.
So Gaia on Maui. Can we see your face, Gaia?
No, you see faces of these Buddhas, and
No.
one of them is in a resting pose. I have a broken back, so I'm
Yikes.
I lay down, and so I
Yeah.
don't put my video on. If that's okay, are you okay with
Sure.
that? Okay. So you're both brand new for me. I've never had any encounters with either of you or anybody in the screen actually. Unusual experience for me, but I'll say this. I completed nundro back in the 80s, early 80s in Santa Cruz, California. And I also am a psychotherapist, but I haven't practiced, I don't know, for 30 some years or something. I live on Maui now for 33 years. But I sort of have to say I auspiciously ended up in here at 4 o'clock in the morning my time and clicked on your email link, and everything that you're saying resonates with me. I keep looking for something that doesn't. Like, how could I show up here and not know anyone? And you're all sort of in a family of Sangha friends and I'm a complete stranger, and yet there isn't anything you've said that doesn't completely resonate with me. It's fascinating. I'm 75 years old, young, I mean, 75 years young.
Mhm.
And I just, it's fascinating to me how life can unfold in strange and mysterious ways. And this happens to be one of those few incidents in my extended life cycle here. So I felt like I was going to just speak into the space, because how can I really, my mind says, how can you consider some kind of a legacy program when you don't know any of these people or who, but you're both so articulate and genuine, and everything is what we say in Hawaiian, pono. Everything's correct, or something like this. So, I don't know. I just needed to speak into the space and say that.
Appreciate it.
Thank
Sounds
you.
like
I'm glad you did, because
Oh
I
no,
was
maybe
wondering if we knew you or not.
Pono might be a
Yeah,
beautiful
sure.
Hawaiian translation of Nell. Actual, something that's really actual, something. Yeah, correct. Uh, have a look at the program on our website, and if you're interested, just send in a
We invite
statement
you.
of interest.
Yeah,
I will.
Yeah, I'm glad you spoke up.
such serendipity.
Have spent
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
really wonderful moments on Maui, so we appreciate the heaven you're on.
Yeah.
Well, the transmission that I received back in the early 80s when I lived in Santa Cruz and started Nundro, I've been Tibetan Buddhist ever since, so that's more than 50 years. And that's the mainstay of my life.
Who is your Lama?
Well, I have a few of them actually, but all of the same lineage.
Who
I
was
was
he with
wondering if you
in Santa Cruz?
initially I received transmission from Lama Gampo Saitian.
Lama Gompo Tseden is one of our root teachers.
Must have
I
met.
don't know. See, I don't even
We,
know
li-
that.
we lived in San Jose in the 80s.
We translated for Lama
We
Gompo
translated
in Santa Cruz.
You did?
Matarchin. I think we've met.
What is your
Maybe.
name?
Well, Gaia.
Did you use
Is
that
that your
back
name
then?
Yeah.
Huh.
But I wasn't. But again, when I lived in Santa Cruz, I was sent by my Taoist teacher. He always said, "You're more Buddhist than you are Taoist. You still believe in good and bad. Go to." And he sent me there because he had been Buddhist before he became this Taoist master. Charles Bellier Ming, you know that name, Charles Bellier, Santa
No,
Cruz. So
no.
he sent me to Lama, and from there it led to Lama Tarchin. Are
We
you familiar
translated
with
for
Lama
him as
We know
well.
Tarchin?
him.
Yeah.
So I'm a student of his. Of course, he had Parinirvana 13 years ago, but I sponsored him to come to Hawaii in in the past and currently Nam Tupten.
Great.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Good teachers. Yeah. We're going to have to
Wonderful.
move on, but
I'm glad.
lovely making connection. We
Yeah.
share some teachers.
Feel free to be, we'd love for you to stay in touch. We share.
Yes.
I am, and yeah, it feels great. Thanks.
Good.
Okay.
Thank you.
David.
Thank you, Gaia. Hi, David.
Oh, hello.
Yes.
I just wanted to kind of echo almost what Gaia said in a way. I've spent a lifetime so far with a strong sense of the no feeling. I don't know if you remember from when we were warning people about stranger danger, kids about stranger danger, we told them to honor the no feeling. Well, I've had no feeling for almost everything. My medical training, the economy, the way things work. And so I've always been driven to remoteness, remote places. And I live in a remote place, kind of like maybe Gaia in a way, where it's kind of paradisical in certain ways. And I don't think I've ever finished anything. But, it's very rich.
David, that was an ordinary mind statement and the kind of thing that we will really pounce on when we're working more closely together. Because it sounds like you finished a medical degree, and I understand you also created a men's health clinic, and you've participated with us, and you've completed every session that we've done. So this kind of ordinary mind statement is the kind of mental pollution that we want to be working with. It's really pervasive, weighty, and destructive. And we don't get into a war with it, but we really have to flag it, because it just choo-choos into our life unperceived. But I had to do that.
Thank you, because I'm kind of an anti-intellectual. Like, I can do all that stuff, but I always kind of look for the core. And so I just wanted to speak to the yes feeling that I get from this, what you've talked about, and being part and participating in this somehow from wherever I am. So just thank you for that. It's just clear to me, cutting through all the other stuff.
It's lovely because you just illustrated an IFS perspective. We have many, many parts. You've got a no part and you've got a yes part. And isn't that exciting? And how can we be tender and caring to both? So thank you for being the live subject.
Thank you.
Just look out of your ordinary.
Burnell and Laurie, one of you wants to say something.
Speak after you.
Okay. I do. I want to say something. First of all, I raised my hand, lowered it, got brave again, and raised it again. So, but what I do want to say is one of the things that both Brunel and I actually appreciate about this Sangha is the balance you offer, and to bring in the human Western struggles and anxiety and trauma, and addressing that is really valuable. And I really appreciate that, that balance, because without being somewhat introspective, I think we would skip, what do we call it? Spiritual bypass. What the places we really need to go to have the depth of our practices. That said, I also have this really strong resistance, to be really honest. Like, I've done so much therapy. I've done IFS. Like, why would I want to do this? And yet at the same time, yes, I want to read these books. And yes, I want to continue to be in my path of understanding myself. And I had just had this revelation, like, I do a lot of introspection. That's really valuable to me. Maybe that's why I'm an introvert. But I will move forward with this, but I do quite honestly have that bit of resistance in there. And also, sharing in a group makes me a little bit anxious also.
And yet here you are.
Yeah, so again, a beautiful illustration of the IFS perspective, which is we are made up of many contrary parts, and we want to honor all of them and pay attention to them. And you know, it is, I think, a truth that the Tibetan perspective is a kind of specific, I call it an almost aspirational perspective. And in some ways, Tibetans wish to live in what we're aspiring to and talk about what we're aspiring to. And they don't have a culture of sharing necessarily one's emotions, one's innermost feelings easily or often or every day in the ways that we do, at least. And so, yeah, we have resistance to this. We've done a lot of it. We don't want to do more, but it's also exciting. And this won't be doing therapy. It will really be, I'll just put my cards on the table here. We'll be looking at our practice in a kind and compassionate manner with joyous curiosity, with the curiosity to see what is the atmosphere that occurs when we do this together. Where do we land in our being state when we are doing this together? And even today, you know, what is our being state as we are, you know, connecting with one another in this space on Zoom? We feel something in particular. And, you know, in the 12-step program, they talk about the experience, strength, and hope. And experience is saying we will accept everything about ourselves, including every muddy piece of addictive behavior. And it took strength to come to this meeting. And this is my hope or aspiration. And this is where both aspiration and acceptance dance with one another. But I also want to hear from Bernal.
I just want to acknowledge the preciousness of this Sangha connection. It feels like a Sangha fishbowl, and I love it. Thank you.
Well, and we want to acknowledge it as well. You are also precious. And, you know, we're acknowledging our perspiration and our inspiration. And the two of us kind of specialize in one or the other of those. And I'm very, very mindful that we have arrived at our scheduled time. And so I want to get a sense of the meeting. We could do an exercise, but it would take probably, to do it well, another 15 or 20 minutes. So I just want to get, I don't know how to do a vote with a Zoom. If you want to raise your thumbs up if you're interested in participating in an exercise, how many thumbs up would I get? And you can be honest. You can show me thumbs up.
We appreciate that you will have scheduled.
You're showing me
yourself
thumbs up. I
vote
can't really, I see some.
Not the thumbs up.
Why don't we say this? For those of you who wish to depart, please depart. And we'll stay on with a handful of people and do an exercise who want to do the exercise.
Is there a kind of syllabus outline of the program? So there are people on YouTube that we're not aware of. Please let us know that you were watching us. Send us your email because we might want to send you something.
Look at the syllabus is right now, it's under programs. Go to the legacy program that spells it out quite explicitly. That is the syllabus.
And for anyone on YouTube, we have no idea that you're here, and we would like to know and be able to communicate with you.
Will the exercise be on the recording? You're cheating. I don't know. We'll record it. We'll see. Maybe. Yeah. So if people wish to leave at this point, why don't you leave, and then we'll see who's left, and we'll do this exercise.
We're still reading your statements of interest. They're very touching, actually. They're very beautiful.
Yeah.
So please don't hesitate to write. Don't be shy. We're not going to reject you, honestly. We just want to know a little bit about what you're coming in with. Yeah. Hi, Barbara, and thank you.
All right, good. Do you want to lead the first, just maybe the first part of the...
So you are, many of you, familiar with the Pith practices of Jigme Lingpa. They have many purposes. And I think we'll just take the very first part. Some of you have done this with us before, but being
curious. I want to say that and with curiosity and freshness, for me, I also have the word wonder, a sense of wonder, a sense of, I don't really know all about this yet. I wonder how it will be. A precious sense of not knowing, I guess what Zen calls a beginner's mind. That's part of our approach. I've done that before. It's going to be the same. No, this is beginner's mind. We're curious. Maybe it won't be the same. Are you the same every moment? So, what Jigme says in this Pith practice, the first thing he says is, let go of support of thoughts of the past, the present, and the future. Be free of that support. So what comes up in this phrase is an invitation to, what is it that I do or don't do? How is it that when a thought comes, I hang with it? What happens? How do I support? Maybe there's something I feel in my body. It's an interesting question because we may feel, I don't do anything, the thought just comes. So I'm going to give you about 2 minutes to look into your experience. A thought, a memory, an aspiration for the future, whatever hangs in your mind most easily at the moment. How do you support it? How do you create some staying power? And if you were going to tell me how you do what you do, how would you describe it? Should I give you a minute?
2 minutes.
Hmm?
2 minutes.
1 or 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
And really the question is, what happens when you look here? You may not have an answer, but you may have a reaction to being asked this question. So you would include that. There are no wrong answers. Your experience is your experience. So we're curious, we're interested, we wonder tenderly. How has it appeared to you in this last minute or so that you do or don't do something that supports a thought? Or how was your experience of being given this
That's the 2
inquiry?
minutes.
What happened? Something happened. And it might be very simple. Yeah. Is that a hand, Terry? Or no? Oh yeah? Okay, go ahead.
What's yeah, it is hard to put into words. What seemed to come to mind, what came to me was visualizing. It seems like I support a thought by creating pictures in my mind.
Oh.
And then I kind of follow the pictures. I follow the visuals.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes it unfolds into a whole big story, but it's, it's like an internal movie. I mean,
It's an internal movie. Interesting. And how do you support that movie?
That's hard to say. I don't necessarily physically stop doing something else.
So maybe better to put it this way. So an image comes.
Yes.
And then what is the next thing that occurs for you?
Another image.
And is there anything that you do or don't do to either allow it or support it? You can take a few seconds and look into it again. You might not have noticed it at the time. These things are very subtle.
It's so rather than what I do, I know what I don't do is, this is hard to explain. I don't focus on what's right in front of me or the task at hand. It's like my everything kind of turns inward. My senses sort of go inward.
Oh.
I mean, that's the best I can do.
That's very good. So something turns inward. If we had more time, I would invite you. I invite you anyway. We won't cover. Well, how do you turn inward? What occurs when you turn inward? That's actually a very important statement. And what you don't do that you notice is also very significant. You let go of, in your words, you don't attend to the task at hand or what's right in front of you. So you are not pulling yourself away from the image.
Right.
You are not distracting yourself from it. You are allowing it, and you are,
yes,
yeah, you turn inward.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be interesting to look at how you do that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Joyce.
Joyce.
Arthur.
Arthur. Oh, sorry.
That's okay. I've been really curious about this since the retreat, and I noticed it again at this exercise. Is if I have something to do, I have this really subtle tension that I hold, and it's like there almost all the time at various levels. And I didn't really even notice it until the retreat when we were doing some exercises, and so I was playing with that or noticing that, like I have work to do later, and so I was like, I got this thing, and it's not really tight, but it's like, okay, you got to go do this, got to go do this, and it's like a physical or subtle tension that's really in like that secret place chakra. It's just like held there. So yeah, so that's what I noticed.
So and you associate that with supporting, somehow giving a basis for your thought.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, it's like this link between, you got to do this, and I wouldn't really completely relax as I got to do this,
I see. So you're moving up and down. Is there movement in the tension, or is it hooked into some other thing?
Yeah, it's like the thoughts there, and then if I start to relax, oh no, you can't forget to do that. Even though I would still do it if I completely let go.
I'm sure you would.
I'm still gonna do it, but it doesn't matter. I still have, it's like I'm doing this compulsive reminding myself.
Yeah. So interesting you use the word compulsive habit. And interesting you do this motion because you identified it as a certain location, but it seems like it also, I don't know, triggers or ramifies through your body just from your motion. Seems like that's also occurring. Is that true?
It's like the thought is sort of the type of manifestation of this tension I'm holding.
Okay. And it's dynamic, this tension, it sounds like.
100%.
100%. Good for you. I'm sure there's more to discover. what we discover when we look into more granularly, more nuancedly, there's usually a lot to find. So good for you. You've broken through some wall here, it sounds like. And I'm sure there's more. And thank you.
Thank you.
Damon Williams.
Damon, hi. I
Hello.
appreciated your statement very much. I don't I
Oh,
know that we've met.
good to
Nice
meet
to
you. Yeah,
see
thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. You guys can hear me okay on this?
Yes, yes.
Okay, wonderful. Initially, when you invited us to do the exercise, it's like I'm not having thoughts, but of course I'm having thoughts. It was just so pervasive. But I realized what was the most foremost in terms of the thought. I was having several, but I've been trying to actually look up the Hori article you had mentioned, uh, Harvey, and I found it, but then I couldn't get my tricycle login to work to pull it up to share it. So I started feeling this, there was like a pressure here from my head, and then in sort of down here that was sort of, I guess, driving it, and then actually bringing the attention to it in the exercise. It was still present, but it sort of interrupted it in a way. Like here it started to dissolve, but the feeling still remained in my belly. And then I noticed myself getting distracted by the dogs drinking the water. So another sound away from this particular thought. But it's in sitting with it, it was like, this is actually kind of uncomfortable. I don't know that I sort of I can just this is sort of feeling of I have to get this thing, but I didn't.
Where is the discomfort, Damon? What's the discomfort?
Like a sense of being like revved up and a little bit of like tension, like a kind of the body wanting to move forward, which is in contrast to kind of how I was feeling and thinking earlier, as we were discussing things and hearing people speak. And then I tried to let it go to really focus on what other people were saying. And then again, noticing it's kind of there in the background. So there's something about, I really have to keep it in mind, I guess, or to keep in the foreground, to keep it going in a way. It's still there, but in really trying to like literally the sound of Arthur's voice as he was talking about his own experiences and thoughts, I was starting to, it was, when I came back to it, it was a little fuzzier, but.
So it sounds like you and Arthur, and actually everyone who's spoken so far, you have identified something that you're being invited to let go of.
Yeah.
And that's very significant for this practice. I know we have all these wonderful hands up, and I also see we're past our time that we already extended. So I think it's very interesting, and it's worth noticing how everyone who has spoken has said something a bit different. This is what it means to acknowledge your own experience. And there's some threads, like you also seem, there's some kind of relationship between what you have in your forehead and in your deep belly. And Arthur had something like that. There was a kind of dynamism, or in your case, one could disappear and the other didn't yet disappear. So that's interesting. And I know you could say a lot more about that. And what I want to say mostly to everyone who
Maybe we
spoke.
could just hear from people briefly, dear, and not do it extensive.
Okay, we'll hear from you very briefly. I wanted to say that everything you've mentioned is valuable. These are the kinds of things we think are not important, and we don't think about them. We have to go to the actual thought, but no, we're going to this underside of it. So maybe we'll give you each a minute at the most, and then we'll close because we did promise to do that. Yes. Kathleen. And thank you, Dan.
Right. So this is very interesting because I've been, as all of us, I'm sure, have been peskily bothered by the thoughts always being so attractive and engrossing and entangling. And what I noticed, two things, as a thought kind of came into my mind like a little thought bubble with sort of vague writing in it, is that the in-breath seemed to puff it up, seemed to energize it, give it interest. And I was amazed to experience an actual sense of the taste of sweetness each time I engaged the thought. It was like satisfying, you know, to engage the thought. And that I had never noticed before. Really, really wild.
Interesting. Anyway, the
Yeah.
different dimensions we have yet to
Yeah.
discover, without doubt.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm sure there's more also. Yeah, Kamala.
I think what's interesting in like moments of silence, like this exercise, is when looking at the thoughts, they come in such a habitual pattern that just kind of like immediately clicks in moments of silence. So it's like it feels like it's not even necessarily in my control. It's just kind of like these strongly etched patterns that just kind of like feels like they click into place. Yeah, that's kind of what I noticed.
A click into place. That's interesting. That would be interesting to explore more as well, if you wish. What's that click and what do you do or not do to let it or stop it? Thank you.
Thank you, Kamala.
Yes,
I'll
Ted.
read these
What are you going to
when we're
read?
through. When we're through, why don't you just address these people?
Okay,
Ted. We'll stop it.
And then we'll
Good
stop.
morning. Good morning. I'll be very brief. But what this did for me, since reading your most recent book, I've kept those 5 Pith practices nearby. And
nice.
What I hear when you spoke is leave your thoughts of the 3 times to themselves without support. Be wholly open and at ease, and then whether your mind is active or at rest, simply maintain a state of mindful awareness. And that's been part of my practice for a while. And what I do with that is a thought comes, I can recognize it, but give it no support, and then have a sense of movement within stillness.
Oh, very nice.
So I can have the thought, but at the same time know that it's coming from a real place of openness and stillness.
Mm-hmm.
And then that enables me to rest there brief moments.
Very nice. And you could, if you wanted, investigate what exactly that support is, although it seems you would have no trouble letting go of it as it is.
Right.
Thank you, Ted. Thank you. Yeah, Ruth.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
I have done this practice a lot because it has been very important. And every time the past, present, and future come through my mind, I am filled with what I'm calling the me sense, which is your translation of a particular way of just being totally identified with this narrative that is me and that is so oppressive and that is and it is, talk about a no feeling. It is so strong, and yet as I recognize that that is what comes up as I think, or the mind allows the past, present, future, sometimes that shifts and something else opens. But I'll leave it at that. That's my description.
That's wonderful. I invite you to look into that shift, not to change it, just to notice it and maybe just let it be. It's interesting when something shifts. Thank you, Ruth. It's fruitional. Thank you. Yes. Kat, and then Nampa will read a few and then we will actually close. Go ahead, Kat.
My immediate sense was the double-sidedness of the word support, how much I want support. And in this context, I'm aware it means how do I cling to things? And anxiety, kicked in right in the guts. And because the thought that came to mind was in regards to Don Mountain. And I'm not clinging is a different word, but the word was support. I need the support. but the anxiety came into the double-sidedness of the word support. Yeah.
Thank you. I wonder if the anxiety is about losing that support.
Yeah.
Don't know. Is it?
Yeah.
Important. Look, yeah, I'm sure there's a lot. That's a tip of a iceberg, but good for you, family. Thank you.
Thank both of you and Renee for actually opening that word up. It's not one I use lightly in
I see.
context. Yeah. Thank you.
I hope
Thank you,
that's
Kat.
healing. I hope that's healing. Go ahead.
So from Sonia, my thoughts are enhanced by becoming interested in what thoughts come and what thought comes next. And at the same time, something realizes that is happening. Feelings come up that motivate physical reactions that draw even more attention, and so on and so. And then from Judge Steve, I'm technologically challenged and can't find a hand up signal, so I'll just type it here. The initial relaxation gives way to tension that precedes a thought. And this happens in my practice frequently, so it doesn't matter what the thought is. Then I'm trying to find the vocabulary to discuss it, sets up new tension. And then Gaia asked, wondering about the purpose behind that exercise briefly. So briefly, this is a Pith instruction, and its purpose is for us to become more aware of what actually occurs in our process of thinking and then giving up thoughts. The Pith instruction in total is to allow oneself to be at ease and free, but we're just breaking it down much more minutely so that we can really appreciate what goes into our process of thinking, because sometimes when we do have joyous curiosity with respect to looking at that process of thinking, openings can occur to something that's more actual, more real. That could be a version of some kind of calm. It could be something closer to our nature of mind. And so the process of the instruction itself is to lead to that. And we find that if we take apart the instruction and look at what we're doing even more carefully, it's conducive to something of the same purpose. I just said a lot because I'm trying to condense things, but it's really to support the traditional practice, which is meant to, the Pith instruction itself is meant to lead us to our deepest actuality. Let me just sort of see if there's any. Okay. All right.
So thank you, everybody, for your patience. We got this extra time together. And we'll just take a moment if you'd like to unmute. As we do, we'll dedicate a lot of it. This is still Sagadawa. The blessings of Sagadawa are with us. And we've done a lot of merit in our inspiration together. So it's simply, oh, okay. By this good
May I
swiftly,
one
speak
from
from
the
the
great
guru,
means everyone to reach that very ground.
With all of you
And be light dispenser,
lamp of
may the
clarity,
glow of
may
love
love
shine within us everyone till we all
rise forth
unawakened
Oh, that's and in awe from your heart, love and light going out to your own future, to the present and future of all. Especially Ajampila Rinpoche, whom I met 30 years ago. Be well, everyone. We look forward to hanging out with you.
Thank you, dear Lamas. Thank you for this opportunity.
Take care, everybody.
Love
Thank
to
you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you
Thank
all.
you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Bernal and Lori.
Bye for now, and thank you, Candace.
Thank you, Candace.
Of course. Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right,
Thank
take
you,
care.
everyone. Bye, Ted.
Thanks for taking care of us.
Thank you, Gia.
Thank you, Candace.
Of course. Of course.
Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
See you all in Europe pretty soon.
We wish.
You will.
Yes, we will see you. We're
Yeah.
waiting for you.
Yes, we're waiting.